pessoal, sejam bem-vindos aqui ao meu canal. Se você ainda não me conhece, meu nome é Vivian e no meu canal a gente traz sempre aqui conteúdo muito bacana e informativo para você sobre o Canadá. Hoje eu trouxe uma convidada muito especial, que é a minha amiga Karen.
Hi!
A gente se conhece há quase 5 anos aí, então a gente tem uma jornada muito parecida. E hoje eu trouxe a Karen aqui para contar um pouquinho da experiência dela para vocês. Então o vídeo aqui, a partir deste momento, ele vai ficar em inglês e eu vou colocar as legendas aqui para vocês conseguirem entender. Okay, so I guess we can start. Karen, thank you so much for coming. Do you want to introduce yourself? How long you've been living in Canada?
Yeah, so my name is Karen. I'm originally from Ecuador. I've been living in Canada for over 4 years and 3 months. So it's been a learning experience for me, but I am still working on it.
My first question is, what made you choose Canada? Why not Australia or the US? What made you pick Canada?
So I made the decision to come to Canada because it has the opportunity to work and study at the same time. So when I arrived back in 2019, I was able to work 20 hours, so that policy is actually changing nowadays. But that was the main factor that I actually selected for me to come to Canada. And I know Australia also has that opportunity to study and work. But since I'm coming from Ecuador, it was very hard to live, but also for my family to come and visit. So that's why Canada.
It's so far, right?
It's so far. Yeah, it's so far away. Australia is very far away. It's easy, like a $3,000 ticket, and it was in reality, it was gonna be very hard for my family to visit me versus Canada, that it's very, very close by, it's in the same continent. The tickets are very, I would say, manageable if you buy it ahead of time. So those two factors, I would say, I took in consideration for me to come to Canada.
And you're from Ecuador, so how does the weather influence your daily life? Is it too hard for you? Because, here we can get feels like minus 25 easily. This year was a little bit weird, the winter this time, but if you look back to 2 years ago, 3 years ago, winters here in Canada are very hard. So do you feel you can deal with it, or?
Yes. So I think the weather is very, it's a unique factor as well. I come from a very warm city in the coast of Ecuador, where I wasn't used to deal with minus 20 degrees during the winter for so long, I would say over 6 months. But I think the most important factor for me to continue being in Canada, the first year is very rough, but then eventually your body gets used to it. But also the most important thing here is to buy really good quality coats for you to protect yourself from the wind and from the cold temperature in general. Also, I would suggest really good snow boots when it's snowing, or in general, I would say it's a good investment to put your money on great clothing, especially during this time of the year where you just need to see for yourself and just make sure that you're warm most of the time.
And you know what I always tell to people when they ask about winters in Canada? For example, we are Brazilians. I feel like it might be similar to you in Ecuador, where, for example, if you buy winter clothes in Brazil, they are not going to be as useful here, because winter in Brazil, you can get what? At least in the southern of Brazil, you can get 0 degrees or 5 degrees Celsius. Positive at the minimum, and 5 degrees, it's fall time here or spring. So if you buy a super good winter jacket in Brazil, it maybe will just last for spring and fall season here. So what I always tell people, try not to spend all that money in Brazil or where you live. It's not as cold here, because clothes here, they are specific, created for to deal with the weather here. So it may be good for Brazil. If you spend a lot of money in Brazil with winter clothes there and then you bring them here, yes, you'll be able to use them, but with the same amount of money that you spend buying these clothes in Brazil, you can buy like a very, very good jacket here that, yes, then it will be worth it.
Yes.
So this is also like always what I tell people.
Yes. So
okay.
Yeah, in my case, I was able to buy all my winter clothes here in Canada. Something that I would definitely suggest is to go to all these outlets that are like within Toronto or Niagara or like anywhere in the GTA area where you can go get really good prices, and they're all like original brands as well, where you can just get really good clothes as well.
Yeah. And Karen, I also remember you telling me that before coming to Canada, you lived in the US for a year, right?
Yeah.
So how was that? What were you doing in US? And today, if you could choose where to live, would you choose the US or would you still stick to Canada? As your choice.
So yeah, as you know, I lived in the States. I lived in Nashville, Tennessee. I was a front office intern for 1 year for a very well-known resort there. And we also had part of a winter as well. But as part of my experience working and living in Nashville versus living in Toronto, Canada, I will definitely pick Canada. Especially because the immigration process in Canada, it's a little bit more smooth than the US. You can definitely immigrate with your entire experience, with your age, with education, and it's something that in the US right now, it's something that it's very difficult to accomplish. So that's also another factor why I chose Canada, because I wanted to immigrate to a country where I was able to do it on my own without getting married with someone. So I would definitely pick Canada, 100%.
Cool. And you also have a very nice English. Would you say that you learned it from your internship in the US, or you come with this good English from back home, like you learned in Ecuador, or what can you tell me about it? Yeah.
So in my case, I started studying English since I was 6 years old in a private school on like weekends. It was every Saturday from 9 to 1 p.m. So it was a very, like a long journey to get to where I'm at right now. I would say it's a lot of consistency and discipline as well in terms of like studying. You need to like actually practice like the actual language, you know, like listen to music or just watch movies with subtitles. Those two things were crucial for me to get to the point where I'm at with my English. Also, my internship in the US was something that helped me out to boost my current level, because in Nashville, Tennessee, you barely find people who speak Spanish. So I was basically forced to like speak in English with my managers or even with people outside of work. And that was something that also helped me out to improve my level of English. And that's the one that I have right now.
And you know what I feel? People sometimes, if you're watching us here, sometimes you may think, okay, so they know everything, they know 100% of English. And that's not true, because I find myself lots of time, like I hear some kind of words that I've never heard in my life. So it's not that I know the word, but I think the thing with English is that depending on the context, you're having a conversation, right? So if you hear a word that it doesn't make sense to your, like just by itself, you kind of try to, okay, so we are talking about it. She said this, and that. So this word inside of this context, what it could mean, right?
Yes.
What I want to say with that is that, for example, I also always gone to English schools in Brazil. So I studied for over 8 years. And then I also done 1 year exchange year program in the US. And still, after 5 years living in Canada, I don't feel I know all the English I could. I feel like I learn one different word every day. So I also feel like sometimes people are in Brazil, for example, and they feel scared because they don't know how to speak English. Or they feel like, oh no, it's too difficult or it's too hard. but that's a process that everybody goes through.
Yeah.
And that, like, even us, we've been, like, if you go to a person that has been living here for 20 years, I'm pretty sure, for example, if you start talking about a specific topic that a person has not much knowledge, they will also find themselves, like, wondering, okay, I don't know what this means, because it's not their first language. It's not their native language. So it's just normal. I don't think, like, people needs to be scared about, oh no, they will laugh at me. No, because also Canada, I think you can talk a little bit about it, right?
Yeah. Canada is an immigrant country that people like us are very welcome. We are part of the workforce for a variety of industries and companies that are willing to hire us. So that's a reality and that's a fact. No one is gonna laugh at you because of your English level. There's always room for improvement. You can either take like private classes or just practice as much as you can speaking with people in English, and that's something that helps out. But I think the most important thing here is that you need to step out of your comfort zone and just try, because if you don't try, then there's no point for you to continue. Like, I think just stepping out of either Brazil or any other country that you want to immigrate, and then you just come to Canada, I think you just need to try, and just trial and error is what is gonna get you to where you want to be.
I also saw a video, I think it was yesterday, and this guy said that people are not really paying attention to you. So sometimes you're like too shy. Oh, I'm not gonna do this video here, or I'm not gonna say that because, they're gonna be looking at me, they're gonna be laughing at me. But you're one person in the middle of billion of people. So like, if they see you doing something, after 5 minutes, they won't even remember about you anymore.
Yeah.
So I also think like this thing that we all have in ourselves, like that we are always thinking about what others are going to think about us or say about us. This kind of blocks us to, grow and develop. So I think also one of the first things that people need to do is focus. Yeah, not everybody is talking about you, not everybody is looking at you, just do it. Because at the end of the day, all that matters is that you're trying and you go to your bed and you think, I made it through the day, right?
Yeah.
So my next question for you right now is about housing. So how was your experience to find a rent when you first got here?
So when I first arrived to Canada, I decided to book a private room within a house using Airbnb. And I stayed there for like a month and like 4 days. And during that time, I was going to school. So I used to ask in school. Usually schools have like a specific website where you can just find rental options like private rooms and stuff. But also I asked my teacher, like, where do you think that I can also find rooms for myself, because I wasn't able to like afford a place for myself. So I knew I had to share a house with roommates. So I ended up just booking my first, after the Airbnb finished, I found a private room within a house, 4 rooms, 1 bathroom, just using Facebook groups. There are so many groups here in Toronto, like in Canada in general, where you can just join those groups and then you can start searching all the posts that they just put there, like in a daily basis, and you can just reach out to the owners or the person who actually posts that, and then that's how I actually found this place. But it is very important to say that you cannot, like, the best recommendation that I can give someone is to like visit the place before even paying for a deposit or before signing a lease. That's very, very important for you to take in consideration before even making a decision.
And one thing that is very, at least, different in Brazil, at least from where I am from, my city, is that it's not very common for you to share a house or an apartment with so many other people. And this is so common here. How is it in Ecuador? Is it like a regular thing, a common thing, or is it like in Brazil it's not as common?
Yeah, same as in Brazil. Like, we're so used to live with our parents, with our siblings. We're not used to live with like roommates. This is such a thing that I lived in Nashville and now in Canada. But it's something that you need to keep in mind if you're moving into a new country where you don't have your family nearby. And yeah, it's something that I just took in consideration before moving to Canada.
And I think one of the main reasons why people actually find themselves having to live with other people, first and foremost, is the housing prices. So, I don't know, like 4 years ago, I remember you could easily find like one bedroom rents for nearly $1,400.
Yeah.
More or less. And these prices have increased like crazily.
Yeah.
Nowadays you can find a one bedroom apartment for near like a 2,100, right?
Yeah.
Like 2,200. And it of course it depends on the size of the apartment, of the location.
Yeah.
And so many other factors, the amenities of the building, if it's a condo, it's an apartment building. But the thing is, what I'm saying that is, it's so hard for you to come here and, you know, to try to live by yourself.
Yes.
And this is one of the biggest reasons why people just, you know, rent with others.
Yeah.
Because as a student, as I said, unless you have like a big savings, then sometimes you can manage to live by yourself, like by your own. But if not, it's just, you know, if you live with somebody else, at least another person, then you can share. You can share the utilities, you share everything else, you share the rent. So it makes living here a little bit more affordable.
That's true. Like I used to live with roommates for the first 2 years when I first came to Canada. And yeah, that's a whole different experience for me. It was an actual experience for me, but then there was a point where I decided to live on my own, and now I live on my own, and I'm very happy with it.
And this is a very huge achievement for us, right? Because I think everybody that I know here in Canada that it's an immigrant once already lived with a roommate. So I don't think it's like one or other people that happen to have to share like a space. But if not, 100% of the people that I know, like at least 90% of the people that are here, they have to share their spaces with somebody else so they can afford living here. Because living in Toronto, it's not cheap.
No, it's not. So basically, as I was mentioning, my first room that I actually rented, it was in a very nice area in Toronto, and I used to pay $800 a month. That for me, being a student, full-time student, part-time worker, with not a super high salary, that was already a lot. And it was a huge accomplishment for me to pay that rent on a monthly basis. Obviously, when you are a full-time worker, that's a whole different story. But back in the day when I was a student, it was very pricey.
And you basically were paying like $800 for a room.
Yes.
In a shared house, of course, you have, you know, the common areas, the washroom, the bathroom, the kitchen that you kind of share with other people.
Yeah.
But the only place you can be by your own, for sure, 100% would be your bedroom, right?
Correct.
And do you have any bad experiences with your ex-roommates that you would like to share with us?
Absolutely. I think not everyone has the same experience. In my case, with my first house, I used to have 3 other roommates besides me, and I think the most common and biggest complaint that we used to have was the dishes, I would say. Sometimes we used to have breakfast in the morning and then rush to the school, because usually back in the day, that was before COVID, and I used to have classes like in person, and I had to have something for breakfast in the morning, and I used to leave like 1 or 2 dishes like in the sink, and then my roommate will be like, hey, like, you should clean this. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, but I was so in a rush that was back in the day, it was just like a big thing. But right now it's like, it's nothing. Like, but I would say the cleaning situation is one of the biggest things that you can face living with other people that you don't even know and that are not your friends or even your family members.
So sometimes it's hard.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard, and because of that experience, we decided to like set some rules. So then we will like, you know, clean 1 week, it was myself, and then the next week it was the other person, and so on. So then, you know, the environment will get a little bit better, but that's something that you just need to like stick to it to like, you know, make the situation or the living situation better.
Before moving to Canada. That was Alexa. So before moving to Canada, what were your expectations, and were they, you know, aligned with the reality? Did you really find what you're looking for, or?
Yeah, so before coming to Canada, I thought finding a job was very easy. I was like, okay, I have some experience back home, I have experience in the US. And when I came to Canada, I was like, okay, I don't think it's gonna be really difficult to find a job because I do have experience, right? But then when I started searching for a job, it was a huge task and a huge challenge for myself because you have to like adapt your curriculum to like Canadian standards, and you have to like make connections, improve your LinkedIn profile, and so many things that you have to work on while you're searching for a job. And yeah, that was a learning curve for myself, and that was something completely different. Like, I never expected it was gonna be so hard, or that it was gonna take me that long, like 2 months or 3 months to actually like land a job that I actually like or that I want. So yeah, that was...
how long would you say that it will take you with your experience for you to find a job?
Yeah, so based on my experience when I first came to Canada, from the day that I started applying till the day that I was hired to my the first company that I worked for, it took me like 2 months and a half.
2 months?
Yes.
Okay.
But I was very consistent, I was very disciplined, I used to like apply to so many jobs every single day, like non-stop, 6 days out of 7 days of the week. So I was very into like, okay, I will definitely get a job. No matter what. I'm a student. I obviously had my savings when I first came to Canada, but I didn't want to run out of my savings. I didn't want to use them all. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna start like looking for a new job. And yeah, it took me 2 months and a half. And I still remember it took me 2 months and a half to actually get my first job in Canada.
Okay. And how do you feel when you see, you know, those news who says, oh, there is plenty of jobs in Canada, like Canada is hiring and blah, blah, blah. How do you feel about that? Is it true?
It's kind of true. It's not fully there. I would say, yes, there's a lot of opportunities in Canada, but what they don't say is that
you need 10 years experience in Canada.
You need experience in Canada, but also there are certain job positions that they are in more demand, that they need more people to work on, and that's something that you don't actually see when you first see all these ads on Instagram or like anywhere on social media. You won't see, oh my God, you will see that, you'll be like, oh my God, there's a lot of jobs in Canada. But it's just, yeah, I mean, there are job opportunities, but they're...
Not for all positions.
Not for all positions, but there's also a lot of competition, especially in Toronto. If you live in Toronto, you need to compete with a lot of people with even more experience than you, or that has more certification. So you need to consider that you're just competing not only with yourself but also with other people as well.
And also at the same time that, okay, Toronto does have more opportunities than any other city here in Canada, but at the same time, most of immigrants, students, you know, everybody, they come to Toronto. So, okay, there are more opportunities if you compare, but also there are also more competition, as you said. Also, another thing is like networking, right? That you said. This is so important here. If you know someone that you know has the contacts or someone that you can trust and then can you refer you. Referral here is so strong.
Yes.
Like knowing the right people, having the right connections will help you a lot. So it's also very important if you're like networking around here. And you can even start from back in Ecuador or from back home in Brazil. You can start with LinkedIn.
I would say referral, it's like an alternative way to find a job, but the biggest task that you have for yourself is just you applying to job positions that you see out there, like online. But obviously referral, it's kind of a way to get a job, but it's not going to be 100% that you're actually going to get a job through a referral. So that's something important to keep in mind as well.
I guess we are coming to an end, but before it, I want to ask you, do you have any tips at all for, like maybe 3 tips for people that are thinking about to immigrate to Canada? It can be anything related. You pick like the most top 3 tips you would give them.
Okay, so there's so many recommendations, but top 3 will be prepared financially in case of an emergency or to start off in this new country. That's very important. To research about how much money do you actually need depending on the city that you're planning to come, either Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, or any other city here in Canada. The second will be to just be focused on the goal that you want to achieve in this country. It's either studying or eventually becoming a permanent resident. Just keep in mind the goal or the goals that you have in this country so you can stay focused during your time here in Canada until you achieve them all. And then the third one will be very careful online. Either you're searching like housing in general or a job. There are so many scams that you need to be aware and that you need to take in consideration. You wouldn't think that in Canada there are not like scams or that these kind of things don't exist, but they do.
A lot.
And they do a lot, either via email or via text message or even phone calls. And so that's, I would say, one of the biggest flags that I can give to someone that is new in this country to take in consideration as well.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess that's it. Karen, thank you so much for meeting with me today and sharing your experience, giving your tips. Very happy that you agreed to be on camera with us today. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Muito obrigada, galera, se vocês assistiram até o final. E se vocês ficaram com alguma pergunta, alguma dúvida, deixa aqui nos comentários que a gente vai fazer o parte 2. E a Karen vai ser a nossa convidada especial novamente, trazendo aqui muita informação e a perspectiva dela também. Então, um beijo, até o próximo vídeo. Tchau, tchau.
Tchau.